Today on this bonus section, we got something special. We have a little round table, and we're going to talk about Coach Stallings. And we gathered together a unique group of folks here that had some experiences with the coach. And we're going to introduce everybody first. We're going to start with Steve Townsend. Steve?
I'm Steve Townsend. I've worked with Coach Stallings from 1990 to 1996 when he left in the athletic administration. Currently, I'm working with the athletic department as a consultant, mainly working on the stadium in preparation for the dedications. Coach Stallings is a great friend and great person, and look forward to seeing him.
Glad you could join us, Steve. Coach Rutledge.
I'm Jack Rutledge, and I was here when Coach Stallings first came and put us through the spring trainings, and then I was able to stay on as a player, and then I coached here. And then when Coach Stallings came the last time, we lived in the athletic dorm, and so I've known him for a long time, and he's a great man.
Mr. Harrison.
I'm Jim Harrison. I'm a retired pharmacist, and Coach Stallings has been a close friend since the day he moved to Tuscaloosa.
Brian?
Brian Deal. I played for Coach Stallings in the 91, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I think. Well, 94 was the last. Had a very good experience. He taught me a lot, and he was a great man.
Steve?
Steve Webb. I had the privilege of playing under Coach Stallings in 1990 and 1991. Basically, right now, I'm a hometown favorite here. A juvenile probation officer, and I'm also a Northport City Councilman, so I'm glad to be here.
Kareem?
Kareem McNeil. I played for Coach Stallings from 91 to 94. So I had my car accident going into my senior year, and currently I'm an instructor at Shelton State Community College.
And we want to have a little discussion here about Coach Stallings, so as we go through these, we'll have some stories and hopefully a lot of laughter, and hope you all enjoy what we have to say here today. Kareem, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about Coach Stallings, and maybe talk about Coach off the field.
Well, first time I met Coach Stallings was on a recruiting trip here to Tuscaloosa to see where I was going to play football, and I was really impressed with Coach Stallings. I didn't really know a whole lot at the time about him, but when I signed to play at Alabama, I got to know him very well, and come to really like him as a person, and especially during the time when I had my car accident, and he was around and visited me quite often when I was in the hospital, and got to know him very well. I thought he was a great man, and I really appreciated him spending time with me and my family, seeing us through this situation.
Well, Gene is a tough taskmaster, to say the least, but his players were really next to his family. Well, they were part of his family, and Kareem probably doesn't know this, but the day he was injured, his wife called the athletic department. It was during the July 4th weekend, if I remember right, a week, and everybody was gone, and she got me, fortunately, got me on the phone, and she was trying to reach Coach Stallings, and I called out to Paris, Texas, where he was for the holidays, and he was back on the plane coming back to Alabama almost immediately to see Kareem, and that to me tells what his players meant to him. Now he could be, and like Mr. Harrison said, he knows everybody. When I left Alabama, I was producing a TV show, and he was the weekly star. So he came in one time, he said, "I'm expecting a call from the president, and if he calls, we're going to have to stop the shoot." And I said, "Well, I mean, can't you talk to the president of the university after it's over with?" He said, "Hey, man, I'm talking about the President of the United States. I'm not talking about the President of any university." So sure enough, about 15 minutes in the show, phone rings. We're in a little old studio like this. President Bill Clinton calling for Gene Stallings, so we had to shoot, close down the shoot until he took his phone call. But he knows everybody.
Mr. Harrison?
Well, I know him off the field. That's where I know him, and trying to think about what I talk about. I thought I'd tell you about the time we went to Europe with him. And I think it'd be his first trip to Europe, and went with the Dockeries and with him to Europe. And so I talked to Beavis beforehand. I said, "Beavis, now, you're not going to have a good time." I said, "You don't like standing in lines." I said, "You're going to stand in lines over there." And I said, "When you go to a restaurant, nobody brings a check. I said, when you go over there, they're gonna bring a check. And I said, the other thing is, over here, everybody knows you. I said, we get over there, ain't nobody gonna know you. And he just kind of laughs. So we get over there, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, 20 people must have come up to him for autographs. Guess there's a TV and maybe American tourists, but it got to be a problem. And James Docker and I finally told him, look, Beebs, you get 2 more free. After that, you owe us $10 for every person that comes up and asks for an autograph. And the other thing, we go out to eat. And when the check comes, Beebs has got alligator arms. He'll say, I get it, I get it.
I guess the funniest conversation I had with him was when I did call him in it was 2003, 2004, and told him that I was interested in politics. And he paused on the phone and said, why in the world do you want to do that? And I just told him, Coach, I said, Coach, it's a need in my community, and I want to help out. And I just want to know, would you help me, would you support me if I try to do that? And he told me, Steve, that he found great pleasure in helping me. So I got a chance to know him as a man, and he's the same man. He's determined, he wants you to do well, but he's very caring about his players, his former players. I mean, a lot of guys still call him to this day. He'll contact you. He keeps up with what's going on. I mean, some of the stories he tells me, he keeps up with all the players. And that's just a thing that you don't find with a lot of people. But as a coach, he looked at us as being his own, and he always been that way.
Steve, one of the things that, like you said, having to do things his way, the way he explained that to the coaches is that there's a lot of the coaches, and was one of him, and it'd be a lot better for them to learn what he knew than for him to have to learn everything they do. So it wasn't necessarily he had to have his way. He just wanted everybody to know the same way. And so that's you made everybody learn his way.
Yeah, we were in a meeting one time, and he had I guess it was a little trouble determining a freshman from a rookie.
Yeah.
We were sitting there one day, and everybody has their usual seats from the first part of the year, and he'd sit over there and he'd look at everybody. He'd read some paper or something while everybody was filing in, and then when he got up, that's when all the chit chat stopped. About that time, here come, I think it was 2 or 3 people. I can't remember who it was, and they got about halfway down. He said, "Hey, rookies, y'all got to watch." He said, "If you don't, you better get you one." I said, So we were leaving that Friday on a bus, and I walked up to him. I said, "Coach, what time do you have?" He looked at my watch. He said, "Why, is your watch broke?" I said, "No." I said, "I just want to be on your time, Coach." He got a chuckle out of that.
He told me a story one time about when he first came, first year he was here with Coach Bryant, and he goes to this meeting, and Coach Bryant said, we got to figure out how, I don't know if I understand exactly, we got to figure out how we want that fullback to stance so he can get out better. We got to work on that. And Beep said, nobody said anything. He said, looked around, Pat James, looked around, nobody said anything. He said, well, Coach, I believe if we would have him stand up, put his hands on his leg, he could go both ways. Coach Bryant says, well, I guarantee you one damn thing, we ain't doing it that way. So it turned out that was the way they done it the year before. And Beep says, I ain't opened my mouth for a month.
Kareem, he just picked on kickers. He never got on the offensive line.
Oh, my gosh. I felt like we were the only ones he got on at times. I'll tell you a story. One practice, this was before I had a chance to start. It's during the spring, I think, and offense against the defense, I think second team defensive line, and I had to pull around from the right side to the left side, and I came up through the hole and made my block and everything, and Coach went up to me, he says, hey man, what's wrong with you? You look like a big old truck. You're slow. And so I never got over that, and ever since then I found myself thinking, am I running really fast? Am I moving slow? Am I running fast enough? So Coach was on us all the time. And during that time, he was on a whole bunch of us about our weight, and I remember he got a group of us together in his office, and he asked us, he said, what weight do you think you can play at? And so, you know, all of us are sitting there trying to figure out what he was getting at, and so we all gave a weight we thought we could play at, and I gave 280, 285, and a bunch of others gave their own weight, and he said, all right, this is the deal. He said, if you don't come back and for summer practice at that weight, you don't get a suit. We're like, oh. So that made a big impression upon all of us, and I don't know how much weight everybody else lost, but I lost 30 pounds to make sure I was going to play the next year.
I got a pretty funny one too, and this is one I remember. I'm trying to think, was it my junior or senior year? And Coach Stallings was a type coach. He treated the players like men. Of course, you know, you got players that were old enough to go out and drink and go to some of the bars and stuff. But the ones who weren't old enough, he didn't want them in the bars. So I can remember one particular night, and it was at Harry's Bar. A bunch of guys went to Harry's Bar. We had won. I forgot what particular game we had won, but we had won, and everybody having a good time. Well, usually if anything went wrong, the next day on Sunday, they would have a staff meeting, a call staff meeting by him. Well, some went wrong. I'll tell you how it went. You know, we celebrated that night. The next day, on the board at breakfast, a staff meeting, 2 o'clock. So we're like, uh-oh, somebody's messed up bad. We get the team all up there, and of course, we're all sitting in a team meeting room, and Coach Stallings, when he walks in, everybody gets real quiet. So he walks up to the podium, and he's with his jacket and shirt and jacket and tie, and he stands there, he looks over us, and we're quiet. And the first thing comes out of his mouth, I got a call, 2 a.m. at my home. And at that point, all the players looking like, oh God, somebody messed up bad, you know. And we're like, talking about some of my players at Harry's Bar. Then the players looking at each other like, oh, I was there too, gosh. And usually at Harry's Bar after a game like that, you have a long line outside there trying to get into the bar. And this particular person said a bunch of my players were at the bar breaking line and jumping and going in. And when he said that, we just all got quiet. We're like, okay, now he's finna issue out the punishment. Guys, just wait your turn. I taught you to be courteous when you go to places like that. And don't break line. And that's all he said to us. We just all started laughing. Because we were so tense and we just thought we were in trouble, but he just told the fan to complain about players breaking line, and that's all it was.
I had a lot of nerve calling him at 2 in the morning for a player to break a line. We were out there kicking one day, and him and Coach Jack, of course he had Coach Jack do a lot of things for him. And hey, did you see it? That's what he'd always ask, kick the bladder out of it or something like that. But it was my senior year, and we were out there doing specialty, and Coach come over, and he said, hey Gerald, I bet you, I forgot what it was, a Coke or something, that he don't hit a good one. I said, all right, so I hit a good one. And he said, double or nothing, Gerald. He said, okay, Coach. So I had another good one. Hey, Gerald, he can't do it 3 times in a row. So I hit another one. Gerald, now wait a minute. We're going to do it on this one. So Coach snuck around the other side. So I'm sitting there, and I'm about to drop the ball. He hits the ball out of my hand. If I'd been ready to kick, he broke his arm. He said, see, I told you.
Well, Steve, he just got on kickers and offensive linemen, never on the administrative staff.
Gene had a propensity to get on anyone and everyone. After going into his final ball game, final week of his career here, we were playing Michigan down in Tampa. And I was up early in the morning walking, and I see him walking toward me or storming toward me. He was trying to find his office in the hotel where we were headquartered, and it was his first day there. He comes, hey, where's my office? I said, Coach, I don't have any idea. And he said, doesn't anybody here know anything? This guy's seen this before. And I was like, I'll try to find out. So they had this little guy there who was a shoe shine man, and apparently he had slept there the night before, and he was Hispanic, and could barely understand what Gene was saying. He said, "Hey man, you know where my office is?" So he says, "Are you the boss?" He said, "Yeah, I'm the boss." They found his room for him, but yeah, Gene had a propensity to get on everybody at one point in time.
My first encounter when Coach Stallings came back, we went to the first meeting, and I was brought back, you know, to live in the dorm and take care of the players and things like that. And so then the meeting was over, so he calls me in his office, and he was asking me, and I, because I was here, and I knew a lot of the situations that was going on, and I knew the situation about the player he was asking me. But he said, "Do you think we need to fire him or not?" Well, I knew that Coach Stallings, over the years, his thing was do the best, do what you're supposed to, because his decision was his decision to let Namath go out of here. I mean, Coach Stallings took a lot of those responsibilities. So, but you see, I knew we needed to keep that player, and I wasn't really going to tell him we should fire him. And so then I said, "Well, Coach, I don't know." He said, "Oh, what did I hire you for then?"
Well, he was pretty direct, and I got a funny story to tell you because I have to compare former, you know, because like I said, I was in that transition period where we from Coach Curry to Stallings, and this is kind of a funny, true story. And like I said, he's determined to do it his way, and it's going to be his way, and his way is the right way. I didn't complain about it. It was a situation where with Coach Curry, of course, dating a girlfriend relationship, and me and girlfriend had got into an argument, and caused me to miss curfew. So I was late for curfew that night, and they checked curfew. And the
Got you.
Well, and the next day for Curry, they had on the board for me to see Coach Curry that day. So I had to go by there a little early before the team meeting, meet with him. And Coach Curry was like, "Well, Steve, why did you miss my curfew? You know, I don't have too many problems with you, but you missed my curfew." And I told him, "Coach, me and my girlfriend, I've been dating her a year and a half, and we had a bad argument that night, and I just didn't feel good about coming back in. I wanted to get it settled." And you know, Coach Curry was, you know, pretty compassionate to me. "Well, I understand, you know, when you're in a relationship with me and my wife get into a discussion, yeah, it's hard for me to, you know, I want to be able to come back to the football field, Coach, with a clean mind and everything straight." So Coach Curry kind of was lenient on me. Well, you know, being the politician I am now, pull the same step with Coach Stallings. Came in, missed curfew. And I said, "Well, you know, me and my girl," it was a different girlfriend too now. We got into a little discussion, and I just felt the need that before I go, I need to get this settled. So, missed curfew. The next day, on the breakfast board, see Coach Stallings as soon as possible. I'm like, "Oh well." So I get up there, and I was sitting out there waiting to go in his office. And he had a meeting with somebody before, and the person came out of the office. Coach Stallings didn't seem too happy, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I'm in bad trouble now." So I go in there, and he said, "Steve, you missed my curfew last night. Why you missed my curfew?" So I thought back, well, with Curry, it worked here. Let me just do the same thing. So I said, "Coach, me and my girlfriend got into a bad argument, and you know, I just didn't feel right. I wanted to get it settled before I came in, Coach, and because I didn't want it to interfere with me playing football." He said, "Seems to me, Steve, you got a problem." I said, "What's that, Coach?" "Seems to me you need to get rid of that girlfriend, because anything that interferes with Alabama football is a problem." So nevertheless, he wasn't as compassionate toward that situation. But it was his way, or that's just the way it was. So
You were talking about getting on the kickers earlier. We were out there in the specialty period, and I think it was Matt. Matt, if it's not, forgive me. But Matt Wethington was just nailing them down the middle, you know, during practice and warm-ups. He blows the whistle for the specialty period. We turn in, he goes watches us, the punters, a little bit, and called me over there to hold some. So Matt was hitting it pretty good. Coach Stallings walks up, and he always had that stopwatch. You know, he'd get right there by, you know, just, I mean, the presence of it. You know, you're sitting there like, is he going to jump me, trip me, or whatever? And Matt just goes berserk. He's just missing it left and right. "Hey, man, I see you hit them all over the place." He said, "Now get over here and you can't hit them." He said, "Well, Coach," he goes, "I get a little nervous when you're close to me." He said, "Son, last time I checked, I'm gonna beat every ball game."
Kareem, folks may not know about those movies. Tell them a little bit about the routine on the pregame there. What goes on?
Well, let's see. After we have a schedule, we get an itinerary. We get every Friday, and you need to follow that itinerary pretty closely or you might get left. But anyway, everybody gets on the bus at a certain time, and we head over to the hotel where we're going to stay for a game. And after we get there, get to our room and get situated and everything, and we go down to eat supper. And tell you what we eat for supper, it's amazing. Any of us didn't just get really fat during the season, but we'd have steak and chicken and spaghetti and salad and drinks and whatnot. And after we finish eating, we load up and go to the movie. At the movie, we'd have popcorn and drink, and sometimes we get candy or whatever's there. And then after we get done with that, we have meetings and everything. And after everybody goes to the bathroom from all the drinks and everything, and then after the meeting, we have snacks. And usually those snacks involved pizza, ice cream, and all the toppings and fruit and anything you want to eat. And so we ate pretty good, and this is just on Friday night. So then the next day, depending on what time the game was, depending on what we ate. Sometimes we had steak, eggs, and grits and stuff for breakfast, and later on in the day we'd have chicken and pasta and that kind of thing. And then after the game, we had food there waiting on us. Got on the bus. In Birmingham, one of my favorites, we had double cheeseburgers, and we had chicken and apple pie and drinks and everything. So we ate pretty good.
As I recall, we had to hold them from the bottom, didn't we? Because the
Yes.
Greeks had the bottom.
Yes, sure did.
Well, I have to ask both of y'all, Brian and Kareem, did y'all pick the movies or did Coach Stallings pick the movies?
Actually, I think that, the captains met with him and they would go over the movies or whatever, and I think,
Well,
I don't really remember when the transition took place,
I'll tell the story.
but I think toward the end of our career, he was picking them.
Yeah. Well, the movie star, of course, I was part of the year when he first got back here. And the first 4 games, of course, what he had established on Thursdays, we would have a breakfast. The seniors would have a breakfast with Coach Stallings. And it was a different breakfast from the normal breakfast where everybody went through the cafeteria and pick which one. We had a sit-down breakfast on the other side of Bryant Hall. We had 2 parts of the cafeteria on the other side where food was brought to us. And we thought that was real nice and that was classy for the seniors. And so at that breakfast, we discussed, what went on during the week. We discussed, the morale of the team, the expectations. And we discussed a little bit about the team we're getting ready to play. And after all that and eating, the last thing was about the movie. So Coach Stallings would always pick the movie. Those first 3 games, about 3 or 4 games, we picked the movie. And in our opinions as seniors, they were horrible. Well, we didn't say much. We just kind of grimaced, and then, I guess the next Thursday, maybe I want to say the 4th or 5th game, we got together, started talking, and the seniors put me up to be the one to question Coach about who can pick the movie. So we had the Thursday breakfast, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. We had to be there and we had to be dressed. We can't just come down in shorts and stuff. So we had to be dressed and we're all tired. So we're sitting there and we go through our routine. And then we get to the point of the movie. Well, we get to the point of the movie, one of my roommate kept nudging me like, go ahead. So everybody got quiet. I said, Coach Stallings, go ahead, Steve. I want to ask a question about the movie, Coach. And he just gave me a stern look. What about the movie? Well, Coach, we were wondering, and when I said we, everybody started going down their seat, and I'm the only one sitting there standing. We were wondering, Coach, would you allow the seniors to pick the movie? He just looked at me. So y'all have a problem with my movies? And then more guys start, sinking down, looking up. Well, Coach, we were just wondering, could we get something that we thought would motivate us a lot better? So you saying my movies don't motivate? And he said, so these first 4 movies we watched, y'all didn't like them. Well, Coach, they were okay, but that wasn't what we wanted to watch. So he paused for a minute and he said, all right, y'all got a problem with my movies. Go ahead and say it. Coach, we got a problem with your movie. But he was reasonable. He allowed us at that point to let the seniors pick the movie for the next 3 movies. But he said, now, take it into consideration. My wife, Ruth Ann's there, so you understand what you can and cannot watch. Yes, sir, we understand clearly. So he allowed us to do that, and it worked pretty well, and we started winning, because just like you said, we had lost the first 3 games. And then we started telling Coach, see, Coach, we're winning now. So he allowed us to continue to pick the moves the rest of that year. So I don't know what happened with the transition, but I know we were the first ones to question the dictator about movies.
Well, of course, we all know John Mark, and the thing about it, John Mark knows you too, because the thing that, that Ruth Ann and even Coach Stallings, of calling people's names, Johnny was the one that would know the names of the people that lived on their street back home, meet the people. They actually would go and ask Johnny sometime who people's name were. So Johnny was a very, very lovable person to all of us.
They'd always give Coach would always give the speech about, do good, surround yourself with good people. And he always told a story about John Mark. Hey, man, he wasn't supposed to live past 2, wasn't supposed to live past 8, and then 16, and he kept prolonging and prolonging. He was, I don't think I know what they're talking about. So, but, Johnny was a, lovable guy. Like I said, he always come up to you, hey, pal, how you doing? Talk here and there, and I think he'd help Coach Mack and him a little bit of times, and if he wasn't feeling well, we'd get on the golf cart and ride around. So it was always nice to see him and Coach out there. Coach was stern during practice and stuff. Of course, I got to observe a little more because I was over there with my helmet. But and then Johnny might not be feeling well, and Coach Stallings might not be having a good day or whatever. But Johnny pulls out, walks out there to him, and he puts his hand on his shoulder, and he laughs over Snickers and stuff, and it sort of puts a good warm feeling in your heart.
Well, I have a son about the same age of Johnny, and I was a player here when Johnny was born, so I was around the hospital, so I know when he was born and how the situation, and that's it, but Coach Stallings and Ruth and I know made a decision to keep Johnny, to raise Johnny, and I really think that's probably a lot of Coach Stallings' success as a way that John Mark progressed, and he's lived out expecting his time and things of that nature, and what he has accomplished working over at Bryant Museum when Coach Stallings was here, and getting to know the people and things of that nature. So I mean, you got to give Coach Stallings and Johnny a lot of credit.
Yeah, and then plus, Coach opening up that Rise Foundation. I mean, that's probably one of
there's no question
the best thing that pretty much ever happened, around here for that particular instance. But with him and Miss Stallings, raising Johnny, just a wonderful person. And then he comes up and with a little help and some few donations, he makes that miracle happen up the street.
Well, the Rise program and what they have here, and the golf tournaments and what they're bringing back, they're using that now. When Coach Stallings on the boards of different, y'all know Coach Stallings out what he's progressing that, but they're using that as a model at other places, other schools and other places, how to develop that.
Talking about Rise, a lot of people don't know, but I had the opportunity and privilege to work at Rise as a graduate assistant there for a couple of years, and being able to work with the kids, got to know the kids, and used to have lunch with Johnny every Friday. Johnny and a few other people would come in, and we'd have lunch every Friday before the ball game, and that was a special time I got to spend with Johnny at the Rise.
Got a couple of stories about that y'all made me think of. On the Rise program, I was chairman of the fundraiser for Rise, and a guy, Pete Hanna in Birmingham, had given $1 million to build the building. And the university, back when President Sorensen was here, got the idea that Rise, they wanted Rise to be a part of the community and not part of the university, and looked like there was going to be problems, and a bunch of us talked to him. He said, well, the only way we can keep it is if we can get a $3 million endowment that'll help pay for it. And so we told him we'd work on that, and so I get involved in being the chairman. So my idea was to get Beebs, because he loved it, and involved, and that would help it. So I had breakfast with Beebs and Pete Hanna in Birmingham. I'm telling him this story and about needing some money. And Pete Hanna, he's just a great guy. He loves Coach Stallings and vice versa. And I say something to the effect, Now, Pete, I'm not talking to you about money. You've already given money. I said, what I'm talking to is about you two being the co-chairman for us to raise this money. But I'm not talking to you about money, Pete. Pete says, I give $200,000 and so will Coach. Well, I looked at Billy.
Well, guys, we appreciate the time you spent with us. I hope the fans at home watching this today had much fun as we've had shooting this today. Let us hear what you think about Crimson Classics and Roll Tide.